I held the ultrasound photo my sister handed me, her eyes brimming with tears of joy. 5 months pregnant, finally, after years of heartbreak and loss. The image was grainy, black and white, like any other ultrasound. But then I saw the name printed at the top. My name. Where the baby's name should be, there was mine instead. Lauren. My sister's face went pale when I asked her about it. I didn't name her that, she whispered, her voice trembling. The doctors said it was a clerical error, but Lauren, I don't think it was. That's when I noticed something else in the image. Something that made my blood run cold. And suddenly, 48 years of buried family secrets began crawling back to the surface. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I'm 48 years old now, but there are moments from my childhood that feel like they happened yesterday. Moments that shaped everything that came after. I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, in a house that sat at the end of a long gravel driveway, surrounded by oak trees draped in Spanish moss. It should have felt peaceful. It didn't. There was always something off about that house. Something I couldn't name as a child, but felt in my bones. The silence there wasn't comfortable. It was heavy, oppressive, like the air itself was holding its breath. My mother, Eleanor, ruled that house with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove. She was strict in ways that went beyond discipline. Every rule had to be followed. Every word she spoke was gospel. And my younger sister, Emily, well, she was the fragile one. Always sick, always weak, always needing Mom's constant attention. I remember watching Mom hover over Emily's bedside during her frequent fevers, stroking her hair, whispering reassurances I never received. I learned early on that my role was to be strong, independent, invisible when necessary. Dad died when I was 9 years old. Heart attack, they said. One moment he was reading the newspaper at breakfast, the next he was gone. I remember Mom's face when the paramedics told her. It was blank, completely blank. No tears, no screaming, nothing. She just nodded slowly, thanked them, and closed the door. The funeral was small and quiet, just like everything else in our lives. But what I remember most wasn't the funeral. It was what happened after. Mom locked Dad's study the day after we buried him. She took the key, hung it around her neck on a thin gold chain, and told Emily and me in no uncertain terms that we were never, ever to go inside that room. It was his space, she said, and it needed to remain untouched. A shrine to his memory. I accepted it at first. I was grieving too, trying to understand why my father was suddenly gone, and why my mother seemed more concerned with locked doors than comforting her daughters. Before we dive into this story, if you're hooked already, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss what happens next. Drop a comment if you think you can guess the truth before the end, and like this video if you're ready for answers. Now, let me tell you how this all began. But curiosity is a powerful thing, especially in a child who's been told something is forbidden. I was 11 when I finally worked up the courage to break Mom's rule. She'd gone to the grocery store with Emily, who was recovering from yet another bout of bronchitis. I knew I had maybe an hour, maybe less. My hands shook as I searched Mom's jewelry box for the key. When I found it, my heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. The study door creaked open, and the smell hit me first. Dust, old paper, and Dad's cologne, still lingering after 2 years. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. Books stacked on the desk, reading glasses folded beside them, a coffee mug with a ring stain at the bottom. I moved through the room like a ghost, touching his things, feeling closer to him than I had since he died. Then I opened the desk drawer. Inside, beneath some old tax documents and a few photographs, I found it. A faded ultrasound photo, the black and white image grainy and worn at the edges. But it was the label that made my blood run cold. Written in Dad's handwriting were the words Baby B and a date from before I was born. I stared at that photo for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Baby B. I was Baby A, I assumed. Emily was born 3 years after me. So who was Baby B? Was there another child? A miscarriage Mom never told us about? A sibling we never knew? My mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. I heard the car door slam outside, and panic seized me. I shoved the ultrasound back into the drawer, locked the study, and sprinted to my room, barely making it before Mom walked through the front door. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night at dinner, I could barely eat. Mom noticed, of course. She always noticed everything. She asked if I was feeling well, and I lied, said I was fine. But after Emily went to bed, I made a mistake. I couldn't help myself. I asked Mom if there had ever been another baby, another sibling Emily and I didn't know about. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mom's face went pale, then red, then pale again. She stood up slowly, her chair scraping against the floor, and walked to my room. I followed, my stomach twisting with dread. She went straight to my dresser, as if she knew exactly what to look for, and opened the drawer where I'd hidden the ultrasound. I don't even know how it got there. I must have grabbed it without realizing, shoved it in my pocket in my panic. She held it up, her hand trembling, her eyes blazing with something I'd never seen before. Rage, yes, but also fear. Her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible, but sharp enough to cut. "Lauren, some babies aren't meant to be remembered." Then she turned and walked out, taking the ultrasound with her. She never spoke of it again. And I learned that night that some secrets in our family were buried so deep, not even the dead could bring them to light. Emily and I grew up like two sides of a coin that would never match. She was soft-spoken, delicate, the kind of girl who apologized for taking up space. I was the opposite. Bold, some said. Reckless, others whispered. I asked questions no one wanted to answer. I pushed boundaries. Mom tried to reinforce with steel. By the time we were teenagers, the distance between Emily and me had grown into a canyon. But we still shared a bedroom, and that meant we shared secrets whether we wanted to or not. Emily started having the nightmares when she was 14. She'd wake me in the middle of the night, her hand gripping my arm so tight it left marks, her face pale and slick with sweat. She said she heard crying coming from the old toy room down the hall, the one Mom had locked years ago after claiming it was full of junk we'd outgrown. A little girl crying, Emily insisted, her voice breaking. "She sounds so sad, Lauren. She sounds lost." I told her it was just dreams, stress from school, maybe the medication she was on for her asthma. But Emily wouldn't let it go. Night after night, she heard it. And eventually, I started hearing it too. It wasn't every night, but often enough that I couldn't dismiss it as imagination. A faint sound, muffled and distant, like someone sobbing behind a wall. One evening, after Emily had another sleepless night, I decided we should tell Mom. Maybe there was a rational explanation, a pipe making noise, the house settling, something. When we brought it up at breakfast, Mom's reaction was volcanic. She slammed her coffee mug down so hard it cracked, and she screamed at us both, her face contorted with fury I'd never seen before. "You're imagining ghosts," she hissed. "This house is not haunted. You're feeding each other's delusions. Stop it, now." Emily burst into tears, but I just stared at Mom, trying to understand why a simple question had triggered such rage. After that, we never mentioned the crying again, but I didn't stop investigating. I started paying attention to the family photo albums Mom kept in the living room cabinet. I'd flip through them when she was at work, studying every picture, looking for clues to whatever secrets this house was hiding. That's when I noticed it. The page numbers. They jumped. Page 7, page 8, then page 10. No, page 9. I checked other albums. Same thing. Pages missing, torn out with surgical precision. The remnants of adhesive still visible where photos had once been attached. Someone had deliberately removed entire sections of our family history. I counted at least 8 missing pages across 3 albums. 8 pages of memories, erased. Who was in those photos? What moments were we not supposed to remember? I became obsessed with finding out. I searched the house top to bottom whenever I had the chance, looking for those missing pages, for any evidence of what Mom was hiding. But I found nothing. Until my 17th birthday. We had a small party, just family. Uncle Ray and Aunt Martha came over, and Uncle Ray, who had a known fondness for bourbon, got progressively drunker as the evening wore on. I was cutting the cake when he stumbled over to me, his breath reeking of alcohol, his eyes glassy and unfocused. He put his hand on my shoulder and leaned in close. "You girls should have been 3, he muttered, his words slurring together. Should have been 3 little Mitchells running around this place. Before I could ask what he meant, Aunt Martha appeared out of nowhere and dragged him away, apologizing profusely to Mom, who stood frozen by the kitchen counter, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge. The party ended shortly after. No one spoke about Uncle Ray's comment, but it echoed in my head for hours. Should have been 3. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about baby B, about the missing pages, about the crying Emily heard. I got up and went to the kitchen for water, and that's when I saw it. The trash can by the back door had been emptied, but something had fallen behind it, wedged between the can and the wall. I pulled it out. It was a corner of a photograph, burnt around the edges, the paper crispy and fragile. The image showed a toddler girl, maybe 2 years old, with dark curls and eyes that looked exactly like mine. But it was the caption underneath that made my hands shake. The words were half destroyed by fire, but I could still make them out. The ending was burned away, but the beginning was clear. Ren Mitchell, age 2. Ren, not Lauren. Something Ren. Karen? Darren? Or was it Lauren? And the L had burned away. But the age didn't match. I was 17 now. This photo would have been taken 15 years ago. I would have been 2 then. But why would someone burn a photo of me as a toddler? Why hide it? Destroy it? Throw it away? Unless it wasn't me. Unless Ren Mitchell was someone else entirely. Someone who was supposed to be forgotten. I stood in that kitchen for a long time, holding that burnt fragment, feeling the walls of my reality starting to crack. 3 children, baby B, a girl crying in a locked room, missing pages, a burnt photograph. All the pieces were there, scattered and broken, but I couldn't yet see the picture they formed. I hid the photo fragment in my jewelry box, behind a false bottom I'd created years ago for keeping secrets from Mom. And I made a decision that night. I would find out the truth, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost me. Because someone named Ren Mitchell had existed, and someone had gone to great lengths to erase her from our lives. I moved out when I was 25, got a job in Tampa, tried to build a life that didn't revolve around Mom's secrets and the ghosts of our house. I thought distance would help, that maybe if I wasn't living in that suffocating environment, I could finally breathe, finally think clearly. But Mom called constantly, especially when Emily's health started declining again. Chronic fatigue, they said. Possibly fibromyalgia. Emily had always been fragile, but now she seemed to be fading, like a photograph left too long in the sun. I visited one summer when Emily was hospitalized for exhaustion and dehydration. Mom spent most of her time at the hospital, leaving me alone in the house for hours at a time. And that's when I made my move. I'd kept the spare key to Dad's study all these years, hidden away, waiting for the right moment. This was it. My hands were steadier this time as I unlocked the door. 14 years had passed since my first intrusion, and I expected to find the same dusty shrine to my father's memory. But I was wrong. The study had been used. Recently, the dust was gone. Papers were neatly organized on the desk, file folders stacked in careful piles. Someone had been working in here, and recently, I started going through the papers, my heart pounding. Tax documents, insurance forms, medical bills. Lots of medical bills, going back decades. Bills for treatments I didn't recognize, hospitals I'd never heard of, doctors with specializations in pediatric psychiatry and developmental disorders. And then I found the binder. It was black, thick, with a white label on the spine that read Continued Case Notes Subject Elm, my initials. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were medical charts, the kind you'd see in a hospital file. Infant growth tracking, developmental milestones, psychological assessments. But the child in these charts wasn't me. The birth date was wrong, close to mine, but not exact. And the notes, the detailed observations about behavior, cognitive development, emotional responses, they stopped abruptly at age 2. Just stopped. No explanation, no final summary, nothing. Just a red stamp across the last page that said case closed, subject transitioned. Transitioned? Where? To what? In the back pocket of the binder, I found a sealed envelope. My father's handwriting on the front. If she asks, tell her the truth. But it wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Emily. Why Emily? What truth was she supposed to tell me? I was reaching for the letter opener on the desk when I heard it. The soft creak of the door behind me. I turned slowly, and there stood Mom, white as a sheet, her eyes wide and terrified. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper, cracked and desperate. Lauren, you don't want to know who you were. Not who I am, who I was. And in that moment, standing in my dead father's study, holding evidence of a life I didn't remember, I realized something that made my blood run cold. Whatever secret Mom had been keeping all these years, It wasn't just about a missing sibling. It was about me. I'm 48 years old now, divorced for 6 years, living in a modest apartment 2 hours away from Gainesville, trying to build something resembling a normal life. I work as a financial analyst. I have a small circle of friends. I go to yoga on Wednesdays. On the surface, everything looks fine. But underneath, I've spent decades trying to outrun the shadows of my childhood, the questions that never got answered, the secrets Mom buried so deep, I thought maybe they'd stay buried forever. Then Emily called about the gender reveal party. She was 45 and finally, miraculously pregnant after 12 years of trying, multiple rounds of IVF, 3 devastating miscarriages. This pregnancy had stuck. She was 5 months along, healthy, glowing in that way. Pregnant women are supposed to glow. Mom insisted I come. Not asked. Insisted? There was an edge to her voice on the phone that I recognized, that old authority that didn't accept no for an answer. So I drove back to Gainesville on a Saturday morning, my stomach in knots the entire way, telling myself this was about supporting my sister, not about reopening old wounds. The party was at Emily's house, a beautiful colonial she shared with her husband Marcus, decorated with pink and blue balloons and a banner that read he or she. What will it be? There were maybe 30 people there, relatives and friends I hadn't seen in years. I arrived with a smile plastered on my face and a gift bag in my hand, determined to be the supportive older sister. But the moment I saw Emily, my throat tightened. She looked pale despite the makeup, almost frightened, her eyes darting around the room like she was searching for an escape route. When she hugged me, I felt her trembling. I asked if she was okay, if the pregnancy was going well, and she just nodded quickly and changed the subject. The atmosphere at that party was wrong from the start. My cousins, Mark, Janet, Holly, and Devin, were clustered in the corner by the refreshment table, and every time I walked past them, their conversation stopped. They'd stare at me, then look away, then whisper to each other the moment I was out of earshot. Even Pastor Coleman was there, our old family friend who'd known us since we were children. He took one look at me when I arrived, and his face went white. He stared at me like he'd seen a ghost, then quickly excused himself and spent the rest of the party on the back patio. Avoiding eye contact, something was happening that I wasn't part of. Some understanding everyone else shared that I was excluded from. Mom was there too, of course, playing the doting grandmother-to-be, but she barely spoke to me. When our eyes met across the room, hers were filled with something I couldn't quite identify. Fear? Guilt? Warning? The gender reveal itself was supposed to be the highlight. Emily gathered everyone in the living room, Marcus standing beside her with his arm around her waist, both of them holding a large black balloon that would release either pink or blue confetti when popped. But before they could pop it, Emily pulled me aside, away from the crowd, into the hallway. Her hands were shaking as she reached into her purse and pulled out an ultrasound photo. "It's a girl," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" I took the photo, expecting to see the usual grainy black and white image of a fetus, maybe make out a tiny hand or the curve of a spine. But what I saw made my blood run cold. The printed information at the top of the ultrasound was standard. Date, measurements, gestational age. But the names were wrong. Mother, Emily Mitchell. That part was right. But underneath where it should have said fetus or baby Mitchell, it read, baby Lauren. I stared at it, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. I looked up at Emily, who was watching me with tears streaming down her face. "Why did you name her that?" I whispered. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else. Emily's face crumpled. "I didn't," she whispered back. Her voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear her. "I didn't name her anything yet. That's just what appeared on the ultrasound. The doctor said it was a clerical error, that they'd fix it. But Lauren, I'm scared. I don't understand what's happening." The room started to spin. I looked back at the ultrasound, at my name printed there in black and white, labeling a child that wasn't mine, that couldn't be mine. "This is insane," I said. "This is some kind of mistake. It has to be." But Emily grabbed my arm, her fingernails digging into my skin. "That's what I thought too," she said. But then other things started happening. The genetic screening came back strange. They want to do more tests. And Mom, she's been acting so weird about this pregnancy. Lauren, she keeps asking me questions about the baby, about whether I feel like myself, whether I've noticed anything unusual. And last week, I found her in the nursery at 3 in the morning, just standing there in the dark, crying. I wanted to ask more, but Marcus called Emily back to the living room for the reveal. She wiped her tears quickly, forced a smile, and rejoined the party. I stood in that hallway, holding the ultrasound, feeling like the floor had dropped out from under me. Baby Lauren. The balloon popped. Pink confetti rained down. Everyone cheered. And I walked out of that house without saying goodbye to anyone. Drove straight home and spent the entire night staring at that ultrasound photo, trying to make sense of the impossible. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't think about anything except that ultrasound, that name, Baby Lauren, printed where it shouldn't be. I googled the clinic listed at the top of the image. STT, Mary's Women's Center. It was about 40 minutes from Emily's house. I got in my car and drove there without calling ahead, without planning what I'd say. I just knew I needed answers. The clinic was modern and clean, all soft colors and soothing music, the kind of place designed to make anxious pregnant women feel calm. I walked up to the reception desk and asked to speak with Dr. Rachel Carter, the obstetrician whose name was on Emily's ultrasound. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "No," I said, "but I need to speak with her about my sister, Emily Mitchell. It's urgent." The receptionist picked up the phone, spoke quietly into it, then told me to wait. 5 minutes later, a woman in a white coat emerged from the back. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She looked at me and stopped dead in her tracks. "Lauren Mitchell," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. She knew exactly who I was. "We weren't expecting you this early." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Expecting me?" I repeated. "Expecting me for what, doctor?" Carter glanced around the waiting room, which had several other women sitting in various stages of pregnancy, then gestured for me to follow her. She led me to her office, closed the door, drew the blinds, and sat down at her desk. I remained standing, my heart hammering in my chest. She opened a drawer and pulled out a file, a thick file. She placed it on the desk between us, and I saw my name on the tab, my full name, my birth date. A photo of me, though I didn't remember ever having that picture taken. But the label on the file made my vision blur. Ray Integration Monitoring, Generation 2. "I don't understand," I whispered. "What is this, doctor?" Carter folded her hands on the desk and looked at me with a mixture of professional detachment and what might have been pity. "Your sister's baby," she began carefully, "carries genetic markers that don't match her or the biological father. Markers that shouldn't be possible given standard inheritance patterns." I waited, my entire body rigid. "They match you, Lauren. The markers match you." "That's impossible," I said. "That's scientifically impossible. I'm not the mother. I'm not even related to Marcus. How could?" And then I stopped, because the impossibility of it was exactly the point. "Doctor." Carter leaned forward slightly. "How is that possible?" I whispered. "Doctor." Carter's expression didn't change. "Because this has happened before," she said softly. "To your mother." The office suddenly felt too small to hot, the walls pressing in on me. I gripped the edge of her desk to steady myself. "What are you talking about?" I managed to say. "Doctor." Carter opened the file and turned it toward me. Inside were documents, medical records, charts. I didn't understand. And photographs. Photographs of 3 little girls who looked almost identical. 3 little girls with dark curls and eyes like mine. "Your mother had triplets, doctor," Carter said. "In 1977, 3 identical girls, but only 2 survived infancy. Or at least, that's what the official record says." I stared at those photographs, at the 3 faces that could have been mine, could have been Emily's, could have been anyone's. "Which one died?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. "Doctor." Carter looked at me with those sharp, pitying eyes. "That," she said, "is the question your family has been trying to answer for 48 years. I drove straight to Mom's house. I didn't call ahead. I didn't give her time to prepare. Another lie, another deflection, another locked door. I just showed up, walked through the front entrance. I still had a key too, and found her sitting in the living room like she'd been expecting me. Like she'd been waiting 48 years for this moment. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking with rage. I'd been suppressing my entire life. "Tell me the truth, all of it, right now." She didn't deny anything. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't pretend confusion or offense. She just looked at me with eyes that had aged 1,000 years, stood up slowly, and walked to the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water with trembling hands, sat down at the table, and gestured for me to sit across from her. "It started with your birth," she said quietly. Those were her first words. Not an apology, not an explanation. Just that simple, devastating statement. She told me Dad wasn't an engineer like everyone believed. Or rather, he was, but not the kind anyone knew about. He worked for a private medical research group, one that operated outside traditional oversight, one funded by people with more money than ethics. They were experimenting with genetic replication, she said, trying to solve problems of organ failure, genetic disease, mortality itself. Your father believed he was saving lives. He believed he was doing something miraculous. Mom took a sip of water, her hands shaking so badly some spilled onto the table. I was part of the trials, she continued. I volunteered. We were young, we wanted children, and they promised us that any baby born from the program would be healthy, perfect, enhanced. They said we'd be giving our child advantages no other child would have. So I agreed. I let them do things to me, to my body, to my pregnancy, that I didn't fully understand. And then you were born. I felt like I was going to be sick. Mom kept talking, her voice flat, mechanical, like she'd rehearsed this confession in her mind so many times the emotion had been wrung out of it. There were 3 babies in the program, she said. 3 attempts at creating what they called enhanced viable subjects. 3 daughters born from modified pregnancies. You were the first, Lauren. The original. The proof of concept. You were perfect. Healthy, intelligent, everything they promised. For 2 years, you thrived. You hit every milestone early. You were extraordinary. Then something went wrong. The sickness came when I was 2, Mom said, and her voice cracked for the first time. You were dying. Your immune system was attacking itself. Your organs were failing. And nothing they tried could stop it. The genetic modifications they'd made, they were unstable. They were killing you. I wanted to interrupt, to scream, to demand to know how she could have let this happen. But I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. They told me you had weeks left, maybe days, Mom continued. But they had a solution, an experimental procedure. They could replace the failing DNA sequences, restart certain developmental processes, essentially reboot your genetic code. But there would be consequences. Memory loss, developmental regression. You'd have to relearn everything. And there was another option. Mom looked at me with tears streaming down her face. They could make a copy, a second version of you, using corrected genetic material, implanted into me again. A second chance to get it right, a replacement. I felt the word hit me like a physical blow. Emily, I whispered. Emily is the copy. Mom nodded slowly. They did both procedures, she said. They tried to save you with the genetic reboot, and they created Emily as backup. For months, we didn't know which one would survive, which one would be viable. You were in and out of hospitals, barely conscious, while I was pregnant with Emily. Your father documented everything. He was meticulous, obsessive. He believed he could still make it work, that he could save both of you. But then the program fell apart. Funding disappeared. The research group disbanded under pressure from federal investigators. Your father was told to destroy all records, to never speak of it again. And shortly after that, he had his heart attack. Mom used air quotes around the last 2 words, and I understood immediately. They killed him, I said. Mom didn't confirm or deny it. She just looked down at her hands. After your father died, I tried to bury everything, Mom said. I locked his study. I destroyed photos and documents. I removed you from the program's monitoring system. I tried to give you both normal lives. I thought if I could just keep you safe, keep you hidden, maybe the past wouldn't matter. But genetics, don't forget, Lauren. Whatever your father created, it's written into your very cells, into Emily's cells, into the bloodline itself. The ultrasound wasn't an error, Mom whispered, and her voice dropped so low I almost couldn't hear her. The baby Emily is carrying, she isn't your niece. She isn't Marcus's daughter, not entirely. The genetic markers Dr. Carter found, they're yours. Because the modifications your father made, they're trying to replicate themselves. Trying to complete what was started. I stared at Mom, my mind refusing to accept what she was saying. That's insane, I said. That's not how biology works. That's not how anything works. Mom met my eyes, and what I saw there was absolute conviction. She's the third version of you, Lauren. The program your father started never ended. It just went dormant. And now it's trying again. I left Mom's house in a daze. I drove home, went to bed, and lay awake until dawn, my mind spinning through everything she'd told me, trying to find a logical explanation, trying to convince myself it was all delusion or lies. But I couldn't. Too many pieces fit. The medical records, the missing photos, the crying Emily heard as a child, Baby B, the burnt photograph, Dr. Carter's file. It all connected into a picture so horrifying I wanted to tear it apart and scatter the pieces. 3 days later, Emily called. It was late, past midnight, and she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. Please come back, she begged. Please, Lauren. I need you. Something's wrong. I need you here. I drove back to Gainesville that night, arriving at Emily's house just before dawn. But when I pulled up, I saw cars in the driveway. Too many cars for that hour. Pastor Coleman's sedan, Aunt Martha's SUV, my cousin's vehicles. I walked inside without knocking. The house was dim, lit only by a few lamps. And there in the living room, they were all waiting. Not celebrating, waiting, watching the door like they knew exactly when I'd arrive. On the dining room table sat a cake. Pink icing, beautifully decorated, professional looking. But the words written across it in flowing script made my stomach drop. Welcome back, Lauren. Not welcome, baby. Lauren. Not congratulations. Welcome back. Like this child wasn't being born. Like she was returning. Emily stood in the corner, her face pale and drawn, her pregnant belly prominent under her loose dress. She was holding the ultrasound photo, the one with my name on it. And when she saw me, she started crying again. Look, she whispered, walking toward me. She held out the ultrasound, pointing to a small mark on the fetus's shoulder blade, visible even in the grainy image. She has your birthmark, Emily said. The same one you had before the treatments Mom told me about. The same one that disappeared after you got sick. I looked at the mark, a small crescent shape, and my hand unconsciously moved to my own shoulder blade, where I knew I had a scar. Though I'd never known where it came from, Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out another ultrasound, one I hadn't seen before. She handed it to me with shaking hands. This one is from last week, she whispered. I haven't shown anyone else. I haven't even shown Marcus. I looked at the image. It was clearer than the first one, more detailed. And what I saw made my blood freeze. The fetus was smiling. At 18 weeks, when facial muscles should barely be developed, this child had a distinct, unmistakable smile on its face. And there was something else. A tiny hand, raised toward the camera, fingers extended, as if reaching out, as if waving. That's not possible, I whispered. Fetuses don't do that at 18 weeks. Emily's voice was barely audible. The technician said it was just a coincidence, just the way she was positioned. But Lauren, I watched her move. I watched her turn toward the camera and raise her hand. Like she knew we were looking. Like she wanted us to see. Mom stepped out from the kitchen, and I realized she'd been here the whole time, listening. She walked slowly to the table, placed her hand on the cake, and looked at me with eyes that held no hope left. We thought we ended the project when your father died, she said. We thought destroying the records and hiding you both would be enough, but your sister's pregnancy restarted it somehow. Whatever genetic code your father embedded, it's not just in you and Emily. It's trying to propagate itself, trying to complete its design. She looked at Emily's swollen belly with something that might have been fear or might have been awe. Whatever your father created, it's trying again. And I don't think we can stop it this time. The room was silent except for Emily's quiet sobbing. I looked around at all of them, Pastor Coleman, Aunt Martha, my cousins, Uncle Ray, all of them watching me with expressions that mixed pity and terror. They all knew, I realized. They'd all known for years. This wasn't a gender reveal party. It was a vigil, a welcome, a resurrection. That night, I stayed at Emily's house. Marcus was away on a business trip, which seemed too convenient to be coincidence, and Emily begged me not to leave her alone. We lay in her guest room in the dark, neither of us able to sleep, and that's when I heard it, soft crying from down the hall. The same sound Emily had described hearing as a teenager. I sat up, my heart racing, and Emily grabbed my arm. You hear it too, she whispered. It's been happening every night since I hit 5 months. I got up and followed the sound to the nursery. Emily had already prepared. painted soft yellow, with a white crib and shelves full of books and toys. The crying was louder here, but there was no source. Just the empty room and that heartbreaking sound of a child sobbing. Then Emily appeared in the doorway, her hand on her belly, her face wet with tears. "Lauren," she whispered, "I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone." I turned to face her. The crying stopped abruptly, and in the sudden silence, Emily's voice was clear and terrifying. "She talks to me," Emily said. "The baby, in my head. I hear her voice, and she says things no unborn child should know. She says she remembers things, remembers being sick, remembers doctors and needles and pain. And she says," Emily's voice broke into a sob, "she says she remembers you. She says she's been waiting to come back, waiting to finish what was started." I wanted to tell Emily she was imagining it, that pregnancy hormones and stress were creating delusions. But I couldn't, because standing there in that empty nursery, with that impossible crying still echoing in my ears, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was a child in my father's study. Recognition, like something lost had finally been found, like something buried was clawing its way back to the surface. And the most terrifying part was that I didn't know if that something was coming back to save us, or to finish what had been started 48 years ago, when my father decided to play God with his own children.